I'm Theo Denovan, Partner and Tax and Legal AI Leader for PwC Australia. Today we are going to delve into how generative AI can apply to tax with our esteemed guest, the PwC Asia Pacific Generative AI Leader, Scott McLiver. We will explore AI adoption across tax and finance functions and its potential transformative impact in tax. We'll also touch on future trends and exciting use cases that are shaping the industry landscape. Thanks for joining us, Scott.
Great to be here, Theo.
So as PwC's APAC GenAI leader, Scott, what levels of adoption of AI are you seeing across our clients, particularly in functions like tax and finance and other back office functions?
Look, it varies, Theo, and like most things, there's pockets.
Yeah.
What I'm definitely seeing at the moment is the generalized AI tools. Copilot, ChatGPT Enterprise, Google Gemini. So those generalized off-the-shelf tools, they're where most organizations are starting. Mm-hmm. So what I'm really seeing with clients is they're all at the start of the journey, with some exceptions, most at the very start of the journey of helping their teams use advanced AI and these incredible digital brains better. And I really think that one of the challenges that we've got to remember is it takes humans a long time to adjust to new technology. And you know, as accountants and tax advisors and finance professionals, I think Excel is an extraordinarily good, historical analogy. It's taken us 25 years to get, or maybe 30 years to get to where we are with Excel. Yeah. But the first 10, 15, 20 years, the capability that gave finance professionals was growing every year. And it wasn't kind of centralized training, it was citizen-led innovation.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a huge amount of mileage we can get out of those kind of off-the-shelf tools like Copilot or Harvey or ChatGPT. As you say, I think the tax use cases in particular, we're only just beginning to explore, like in Excel using ChatGPT to explain a formula, for example. As things continue though, do you think that's where a lot of the benefit will come from, like that citizen-led, democratized, broadly available set of tools? Or do you think it's going to move into bigger projects run by, say, IT functions?
Yeah, I think it's just going to be both. Like a lot of things, the answer is both. I think your Excel example is a really good one around a formula and kind of that use of, use this digital brain. Like I think that's a nice way a lot of people think, your digital intern, how do I use that incredible knowledge source to do my day-to-day role better? And whether it's writing a macro or, or doing a bit of VBA code or simply a bit of research about a tax ruling, using those tools day-to-day for what we're calling generalized productivity, that's the foundation of confidence. But normally that confidence leads to the more ambitious, more sophisticated and bigger ROI returns of, bespoke solutions which leverage, these foundational models into your own workflows. And then obviously the word we keep hearing a lot is Agentic AI.
Yeah.
I think you and I, I feel that's going to be a massive change, as we move from chatbots that you interact back and forth with to, goal-oriented, take-action systems.
Yeah, I think that's one of the really interesting things about GenAI is that ability to kind of break down some of those barriers between different functions in organizations. And so something you might have needed help from an IT function in the past to like build a Power BI dashboard or like write a query or write a macro even in Excel, as you say, is now something that you can get ChatGPT or Copilot to help you with, and maybe in the near future you'll be able to get an agent to kind of just do it for you end to end. Do you think there's kind of one trend over the next 12 to 18 months that people and tax leaders in particular should really be focused on?
I think it's a mix of Agentic AI, which these outcome-oriented systems that can take action, right? So I think that's probably going to feel like the biggest obvious change. It's not just an LLM we interact with, question back and forth. However, I think one of the biggest impacts for professionals in subject matter areas like tax and legal and finance is just the advancements in the reasoning capability of these models. Like when we think about O3, like that we're finding significant improvement in, the 60% draft is becoming an 80% draft. And, I was quite critical of some of these models around their ability to handle, data at times if you needed accuracy, as opposed to words. The reasoning models, I think, is going to somewhat sneak up on us, and we won't realise it, but we'll look back and be like, wow, they're really helping us more than they used to. So Agentic AI and deep reasoning.
Yeah, I think that the deep reasoning stuff is super exciting, right? I'm not sure if you've tried deep research in like ChatGPT, but if you imagine that applied to, say, the tax domain, where like rather than just Google results, it was also looking at kind of
absolutely
precedents, case law, legislation, like it could do some really powerful stuff. So we've got so much amazing technology today, whether it's Gemini or ChatGPT or Harvey. What are you seeing though that business leaders or professionals can do to actually start the journey to using more of these tools?
Look, it's a really good question, and I immediately think of Mohammed Kande, our global chair. He's got this great expression that, learning is something you can't outsource. And I think, any technology, particularly AI, you've just got to get your hands dirty and use it. So the biggest advice I would give to any professional, any business leader is you need to use the technology yourself. No one needs to become a computer scientist or a prompt engineer, but use it so you can understand it, and then you can think strategically around applying it to your business, your teams. As with a lot of technology, the people change is the hard bit.
Yeah.
And we've found both within PwC and with clients that no matter how much you acknowledge that going in, you learn on the journey, it's even bigger. It's more about people. And that's where there's just no substitute for engaging your people, upskilling them, but then leadership's showing that commitment. I think the foundational piece of business transformation is executive education, because once the executive teams, the leadership teams, once the penny drops as to why we're starting this journey, the tone that they give to their teams drives the use and the change. So this is, fortunately we've got people like yourself, Theo, who are deeply capable with the tech. Not to belittle that, but that's kind of the easy bit now.
Of course.
Because we give them the tech, it's getting hundreds of people or dozens of people within teams to use that tech well. And so that's where, when you go on that people change journey, I think tone from the top's critical. Leaders need to engage. Where this technology is a little bit unique as well is it's the first tech that we've ever seen senior people use a bit more than junior. Typically the adoption is massively skewed towards the younger generations. Whereas I saw this great example on LinkedIn around prompting, that being a great prompter has massive alignment with being a good manager and a good leader. Clarity of goals, context you need to give, whether it's your team or the model. And that's why, other than the fact you're dealing with a piece of technology, the sooner you interact with these digital brains and these AI systems in a much more conversational human way, you'll get more out of them. But you can't simulate that. You've just got to get your hands dirty and get started.
I think it's a great point, and I think that point around kind of having an AI first mindset really has resonated with a lot of what we've been doing internally as well. I think the other point you raised, which is also super valid, is just starting somewhere is really important. And like most organizations these days will have some form of GenAI available to their people, whether it's Copilot, whether it's ChatGPT Enterprise. Like this stuff is very democratized, and so for most people it's hopefully easy to start somewhere.
Yeah, and on that, you made a good point there. Step one, you've got to provide safe, responsible AI in the hands of your people, because if you don't, they'll find unsafe AI.
Yep.
So step one, as organizations, get safe, data secure, responsible AI in the hands of your people, and then empower them to use it, but invest in the skills of them upskilling to get the best out of these models, because you're absolutely right that it's becoming highly democratized. And I do think that if we fast forward a couple of years, I think most organisations will feel like in 2025 they underinvested in getting the best out of the off-the-shelf tools and probably slightly overinvested in the bespoke solutions. Both are important, but the power sitting there from the big players for us all to leverage is quite extraordinary.
Yeah, completely agree. And final question for you, what are some of the most exciting use cases you're seeing across your travels in APAC?
Well, I think before I go to the most exciting, the most common is just these language-based tasks, because the knowledge embedded in these tools is extraordinary to help supercharge humans. So, like, if I always try and help clients and our teams understand that if you were given a couple of PhD interns to help you with anything you needed, you would probably immediately have 20 things you would get them to help you with. The sooner you can think about your AI like that PhD digital intern, the more you'll get out of it. So first, that generalized language-based use cases, whether it's as simple as drafting an email, doing research. In terms of the most kind of exciting, I would say the quality of human-like voice customer service. I've seen that as a big change in the last even like month, like the latency dropping and that I genuinely feel we can now touch and feel within the next 6, 12, 24 months. It will be quite common to talk seamlessly to, and you're not sure if it's an AI or not. The other bit would be vision. So for those of you who haven't, like I'm sure you've tried it, Theo, but the fact you can turn your camera on now in GPT Enterprise, the vision capability coming into these models, everything from repairs and maintenance use cases to security video, even just things that you and I in the past would have put a lot of effort into OCR. The model in those eyes are making big steps forwards there.
So effective and so cheap as well.
Totally.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Scott, and thanks for all your insights.
Thank you, Theo. It's great to be here.